And we're live right now. Phil Tarrant, Tom Panos, Real Estate Exposed. I'm recording tonight inside a ping pong auditorium. You could probably hear it in the background. Tom Panos in your quiet, fancy studio somewhere in Sydney. How are you?
Good. Inner Western Sydney, back of my home studio, sitting here on a Thursday afternoon. You inspired me, Phil, to get myself a nice glass of red wine before I head out to a function, which I don't go to many, but you inspired me after I was whinging to you off camera about, what an average day that I'd had with certain things that have been coming up. But it's incredible, Phil. A couple of sips on a nice glass of red wine and everything seems bearable again.
Mate, you just gave too much away there, Tom. I didn't realise Tom Panos whinged about things. I thought you were a stalwart and you always had an attitude of gratitude. You're always positive and upbeat, and nothing really stood in your way, except for the fact that sometimes you get stressed about auction results, which we spoke about last week.
Yeah, well, as I said to you, I was stressed, but not as stressed as what was made out. I actually listen. The only thing I get stressed about auction results, Phil, is not that I'll say, 1 out of 6, 1 out of 7. I do get stressed when you walk inside the room and you see the vendors of the house slumped down, head down, deflated. Their whole dream that they thought was going to mean they were going to get $100,000 more and they could move forward with their plan has been shattered. And I do get stressed for a short period of time. But at the same time, I have to say that the role of an agent and an auctioneer is not to act like someone is a victim and you're the rescuer. Like, that is not a healthy relationship. A healthy relationship is to tell people the damn truth. And sometimes the truth is good. Sometimes the truth is not good. And it's nowhere near as bad, Phil, as the responsibility a doctor has in delivering bad news. You wouldn't compare a doctor delivering bad news to a real estate agent delivering bad news. But nevertheless, I have to be honest with you, Phil. I much preferred walking into a home last year where people were saying, Tommy, let's have some champagne, and giving you a high five. Whereas now they'll just look at you and they'll just sort of be very dejected. But that is what real estate is at the moment. And I think I'm getting a lot of real estate agents that are telling me one of the things that they're struggling the most with is trying to manage the emotional energy that is coming from their clients at a time when most of the times they're delivering bad news. I
guess, Tom, it gives a lot of relevance to what you do for a living, and I'd probably sort of augment that with realestatebusiness.com.au here at Momentum Media, being fluid enough from a content positioning point of view to be up to date and consistent with the issues faced by agents in the real estate industry today. And the skill set might not be about how do you chase more listings or how do you be more effective at the actual sales level negotiation. It's about managing EQ within the real estate market itself. So being able to pivot and shift and change, I think, is a core skill. And Tom, I know you're a highly regarded academic when it comes to coaching inside of real estate. I reckon you've got a PhD in you somewhere, Tom. One day, really looking at the psychology of
I've got Phil. It's funny you say that. It's what a coincidence you're saying that, because I was sitting at home and I said to Sula, my wife, yesterday, you know what? Like, I think, because 3 doors down the road from me is a professor from Sydney Uni. And he said to me, hey, listen, if you want, come and do a PhD. And his wife, who looks after the subject, she can be your sponsor or the person that sees you through the PhD. And I thought about it, And I thought that would be exciting as long as it's something that you're madly in love in doing, a total deep dive that no one else has done. So you can come back with a set of work that you've done that's going to hopefully be of benefit to someone. I've thought about it, Phil, but the other side of it is I have a reoccurring bad dream. I've had it for 35 years, Phil. A reoccurring bad dream. And you know what the dream is? I don't
Going
know.
back to
And I've got to
school.
go see a dream specialist. Listen to what the dream is. That it's the day before my HSC. And I realize I know nothing about anything, and I'm stressed and I'm overwhelmed, and I don't know. And this dream won't go away, Phil. I've had it. It's a chronic dream. You know, Susan that works with me, who went through a stage, says it's psychology about not being prepared about something and feeling stress. But that's I wouldn't call it
I
a
don't know
nightmare.
if that's
It's a
a
bad
read,
dream.
mate. I'd probably package. You know what? I'd probably package that up with my armchair psychology. Is imposter syndrome is what that would be. So
Really? Elaborate.
I reckon. So you've heard of imposter syndrome, correct?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So I reckon what it is that, and this is Real Estate Exposed. It's that perpetual doubt of whether or not you're good enough to be doing what you're doing in any given time. So I reckon that's probably manifesting as part of that. So you're talking about doing a PhD. You go, oh, that sounds good, but could I do it or will I do it? And you must hear it all the time, Tom. And you're a very good coach. You're very tuned both at a practical level, but also at a emotional intelligence level. You must speak to real estate agents all the time that probably see the world the same way in terms of that. Imposter. I think it's a very healthy thing personally because it doesn't show complacency. So I reckon it's a positive thing for you rather than a negative thing. But I don't have any degrees in psychology.
Yeah, well, Jeff Smith, who comes across as the real estate doctor, has put down you can be awarded an honorary doctorate, Tom. You don't need to complete the 3 years full time at uni.
Right. Look, I think you probably deserve that mantle. Maybe an adjunct professor at University of New South Wales Business School, Tom. I think there's a lot that you can learn from you. But to your point,
did you go to Phil? Did you go to uni?
Yeah.
What did you study? Journalism?
No, I didn't study journalism. There's something I fell in. I actually studied politics and international relations.
Wow. In Sydney or in Canberra?
In Sydney and abroad as well. I went to a couple of universities outside of Australia as part of it. So
you must have had aspirations to go down the path of becoming a politician.
No, I was always just interested in current affairs and somehow ended up doing that as a university discipline at undergraduate and postgraduate levels. I didn't really know what I was going to do with it. But to be fair, though, I think the discipline of academic study two things I learned at university, and probably the key skill that I still use today is I've worked out pretty well how to talk to people and how to handle myself in social situations, particularly those that involve the bar. So I learned that, and I reckon I probably would have got a high distinction on and marked well on that front. And the other thing was how to collect and synthesize information and communicate in a really, really important way, which again I use regularly. Back in the day it used to be sort of writing essays and stuff, but today that same thing applies. Podcasting or broadcasting or live streaming, what we're doing right now. So two key skills, Tom, that I still use exceptionally well today. We're seeing it in motion as we speak. The two pillars of university, and I think one of the biggest challenges, Tom, that uni kids face today is the fact that everything is done online. All tutorials are now done, in your pajamas at home, hung over on the web. Whereas they're really missing that really important part of the university or even the school experience, and that is learning how to deal with people face to face. And they're the skills of the future. But back to your PhD, Tom, the idea is that you should be able to provide some new way and new interpretation or research and therefore outcomes of it into an area that's never been covered before. And I reckon the psychology of vendor perception and how that influence real estate markets. You've seen enough cycles. You could probably go back and collect enough data in the past, and you probably know the right people to be able to collect it moving forward. It's definitely something in there, Tom. Dr. Tom Panos.
Yeah. Listen, Phil, we were talking off air before about profits in business. And I was talking to you about a business that I was very surprised that it was only doing a 5% profit on its gross revenue, right? And you made up a very good observation, which after you mentioned it, I thought to myself, you're right, because one of the principals I spoke to said, Tom, one of the problems that we've got at the moment is the salespeople that are working with us have got a lower capability that's required in this market. And I said to him, why do you think that is? He says it's a combination of two reasons. Reason number one is they haven't actually been a product of this kind of environment. They've been a product of an environment of a market that was quite different. But the second thing he said, Phil, that's very interesting, and it goes along the lines of your online learning. He goes, for the last year or two, the normal pattern of learning in a real estate office is observational learning. Everyone is in at the office 6 days a week. You're sitting here, your colleague is sitting there. They're very experienced. They know what they're doing. You're new. You're learning the game. You're listening to that person on how they go about it. For about 2 years, particularly if you're in Victoria, which was many months of lockdown, they lost that period of observational learning, of the rub-off effect. You must have been able to have seen that in your own business as well, Phil, because you've got a lot of salespeople that work in your business, and normally they have this energy going between them. They're sort of talking, there's banter going on, and all of a sudden they found themselves basically with a phone, working from home, and on Zoom. How much of COVID do you think has caused skills shortages? And is there a skill shortage at the moment in the workforce?
I think yes is the answer, and it's very, very complicated. What you're talking about, Tom, when you sort of, when you pull the layer off and go, is there a skills gap, yes or no? But once you dig deeper into it, within our business, it's probably a question I would defer to Alex Whitlock, my business partner, you know him well, who is very much connected with driving the commercial part of this business. But what he would say, and I would probably concur with him, is that we had this within the sales, the sales room. You're talking about it. This buzz, this sort of feed of energy that motivates people. Pre-COVID, we had a view that yes, that was absolutely critical. The sales team should sit together. The sales team should be running off each other. That's where they learn. It's through environmentally listening to how other people are pitching and closing deals or working with clients that you learn the most. And he would probably still agree with that. But, when you look back at being forced to be locked down and that being taken away from us, not through choice, but through circumstances, our sales team has performed exceptionally well, very well. And I think a lot of that's testament to the leadership they had through Alex, obviously, and Russ Stevenson, our commercial lead. But, they've lost a lot of that. And we're trying hard to try and, at least creating the environment where those type of things can still happen. And one of the biggest challenges you're seeing now, and whether it's within media businesses or real estate practices or advice-based practices like law and accounting, is that, the reason why young lawyers, the reason why young accountants, the reason why younger salespeople were in the office was that's where they learned. You can do the more functional, structured teaching, and that can be out of textbooks or courses or whatever, but it's the environmental day-to-day learning which is being eroded. And I think it's a real challenge for Australian businesses and Australian business. That said, going back to the profitability equation for real estate agents. And I'd probably say this also applies in the mortgage brokers. There's been a fair bit of stimulus banded around over the last couple of years, and for real estate and also mortgages, it's been pretty heady times when it comes to real estate sales and therefore mortgages. Prices going up. There's been a lot more mortgages, a lot more activities. Average mortgages going up. Mortgage brokers are writing 70% of all home loans. Right, we're in a very, very different market. I was having a really good chat the other day, Tom, and you may know him, Jason Back. He's a very good. He's a business coach inside of mortgage broking.
Right.
He's come out of one of the very good brokerages. Very operational centric. Understands the economics of mortgages, and he's also very good at coaching brokers. And as you know, we're invested into a mortgage broking company, and I'm trying to get my head around the economics of broking at the moment. But he said it really well, and I say the same thing would apply for real estate within this context of some of the challenges that sales teams are facing, is that there's a real deficiency gap at the moment. So what you need to pay for someone at a sort of a base salary level versus what you had to pay for that same person 2-3 years ago is very, very different. Point number one. Point number two, the longevity of that person in your business is probably restricted quite a lot to what it used to be. So the notion of loyalty now is 2 to 3 years rather than maybe 6 to 7 or 8 years. So if you employ people, you need to have the acceptance that they're not going to be as skilled as what they used to be, paying for them the equivalent of the salary that you're paying for them right now. And they're probably, despite all of your best efforts, probably not going to stick around. So how do you go about having an eye on your earnings as a business owner, knowing those two things? And it's hugely challenging for real estate agents and also for mortgage brokers, because you're not getting what you used to get for the same amount of money. A lot of this is the employment market, because there is so because unemployment is so low and expectations around the salaries are so high. So to your point, Tom, that real estate practice operating at, I think you said 5% profitability in a market which is softening, I'd probably have a big red light sort of flashing on top of that, and something needs to change. Either you need to get your salespeople selling more, but to your point, you give away so much on the comms on to the salesperson. How do you affect volume growth so rapidly that you actually get the upside on it as the business owner? It's complicated, mate. Really, really complicated.
It's very complicated, and so Phil, when I got into real estate as a 19, 20-year-old, say 20-year-old, the split was 30, 35%, roughly 30 or 35. Some of the more generous employers were paying 35. Some of the more conservative ones were more like 30. That was in 1990, Phil. Let's look at today. There are various models. Example, the agency that pays out a 75%, right? If you're a good writer, you're getting paid 80%, no matter what model you're working in. It's really unlikely anyone is going to be lower than 50, 55%. So the issue, of course, you have is if you turn around and if you pay too much, you're not going to be making any money as a business owner. On the other hand, you turn around and you say, hey, I'm not going to pay that level. I'm going to stick to my guns. And this has happened in a lot of businesses. People leave, right? And so there is a bit of a catch-22 situation. And that's why in many instances, Phil, a lot of people have actually moved away and said, you know what? I will actually just run a little business unit within someone else's business, and I don't want to go down the path of owning a real estate operation. So it is.
Mate, it is huge. I think it's a huge issue for the industry, this being real estate exposed, and hence the reason why you've got the proliferation of these more low-cost hybrid models where you can get all the benefits of back-end capabilities, systems and processes and technology without the brand. And this flight away from the large franchise brands as a result of it. Every industry is in the same. It's this sort of disintermediation type of thing. I can see the merit of it. And building a real estate practice now for scale and growth is very, very hard because the economics have changed so rapidly. And if you think about, and maybe I'm sure you can probably frame this a lot better than I can, Tom, you don't want stars in your real estate practice these days because stars often, number one, very hard to manage. Number two, often quite needy. Number three, no matter what you do, they're a flight risk and they'll probably leave you eventually. So how do you build a business around it is good enough, it's mediocre, they're okay, and get the economics of that right, which is probably a lot more controllable than building a real estate practice around stars that are going to leave you? I don't know, mate. That's the big question.
Yeah, look, there's two views on that, Phil. One view is some people turn around and say, listen, I accept that if I'm going to have a $2 million gorilla, it's going to come with a price, and I'm going to stretch myself as their leader to manage them. And there's another group that are saying, you know what? That's too bad overall for my whole business. It's going to be bad for culture. We're going to end up having a business that becomes totally dependent on one person writing the revenue. And what will happen is, at sooner or later, this person most likely will be my competitor across the road. So I'm not going to, participate in it. So, Phil, it's not easy. And on the skill shortages, I mean, only the other day at the airport, as you're going through Qantas security, I just can't get over this. Like, I'm going through security and I see one of the guys that was directing traffic, telling people what to do. And I vaguely remembered his face. And I said to him, where do I know you from? And he says, I used to wash your cars last year. So just picture this. He was working at a car wash, washing away. And what's happened is, because there's such a skill shortage, he has within 6 months gone in and he more or less was supervising other people in the security machines as they're coming through. We've got people, and look, he may be doing an incredible role. The point I'm making is that we've got people now, Phil, that there's such a shortage of people that you've got people that are going into roles. Are they adequately trained? But I can't help it. Just talking to you, what an opportunity. What an opportunity there is at the moment to stand out, Phil, if you can do things better in the marketplace and the competitors, because you'll stand out now, can't you?
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree. And I think there's two things there. Number one, going back to deficiency gaps inside of real estate practices and also mortgage brokerages, and deficiency gaps being, everyone, there should be a ongoing focus towards upskilling and training people, but you're getting less, you're paying a lot more for less at the moment. And I think that's the base premise. So anyone who is a leader inside of a real estate practice or a mortgage broking practice, at the core of what you're concentrating on and what you should be investing in is upskilling people to close that gap as quickly as possible. Number one, that will help you stand out. Now, Tom, the counter argument is that I don't want to spend too much people building people up who are potentially going to be my competitor. Well, guess what? Great leadership. You should be supporting your people to actually compete against you in time, because that there is a testament of good leadership, and grow up and get beyond it, because that way, when you have people inside of your organization, they're going to be exceptional and they're going to stand out and they're going to help your business stand out. Now, to your point around the person inside of security at the airport who used to wash your cars, mate, good on him. Good on him. How good is it, the fact that sort of stuff can happen? And what I think a lot of the challenges around skills gaps right now is that you have a lot of people transitioning industry sectors. And I think also because of this sort of flight towards flexible working and work-life balance and even the 4-day working week, we need to remember that only people like me and you, who can largely do our job over the internet, we get to make that choice. But there's a lot of people out there who still need to go to work every single day, a building site. They need to drive stuff around. They need to stand at the airport security checking luggages. They need to do all of those jobs which still require people to turn up. Now, I guess one of the good points for real estate is that they're all chasing a lot more jobs that give them flexibility. So, the knowledge workers have a new set of people who are interested in joining those industry sectors. So grab them, upskill them, and stand out. Now, Con sends a note here, Tom, very interesting live. Gentlemen, essentially all learning has a very strong social interactive component. The theory points that learners construct knowledge rather than just passively take information. Undoubtedly, lockdowns have adversely affected learning in businesses. In education theory, I think Con might be an academic, Tom.
He's actually one of the most intelligent people I've met. I've actually met Con, and he runs an online business out of the Blue Mountains, a very successful online men's shaving grooming business.
Okay.
Highly intelligent guy. He's known as Con the Shaving Man. So he's quite right. I'm just reading the comments there. It's a fascinating theory and one worth considering for anyone in business. I have to say to you, Phil, I reckon, so I'm looking at my own training business. So every time the market turns, inquiries for training goes up, right? It goes up, Why is it? Is it that people are feeling the pain, or is it that they've got more time on their hands? Because when you're really busy and you're just doing deals, maybe it's not the highest priority on you. But Phil, it's a fascinating conversation that we've been chatting, but it's all been inspired that I just can't get over, the risks involved in a business. If you're only doing if you're only pulling out 5% profit, and that is in a reasonable market, worries me.
It's maybe a silly question. Does that include what the business owner earns? Like, is their salary packaged up in that, or they're going to take their earn out of that profit?
I'm not quite sure on that one, because I know that whenever I'm having conversations with people, it goes either way. Some people turn around and say, oh, no, that's salary and profits all included. Other people say, oh, no, I pay myself $150,000 a year for being the manager here, or whatever they pay themselves, right? Normally they pay themselves an amount that's been advised to them by their accountant, right? Saying, pay yourself this and the rest can be dividends.
Yeah.
So, I just, and it does worry me, Phil, because I think to myself, if that was indicative of other businesses out there, listen, all it's going to take is a large reduction of sales taking place over a 12-month period where something that's profitable becomes unprofitable.
Well, maybe this is a term of phrase inside of real estate. You'll know if someone does. But let's coin it right away. You might know zombie real estate firms. It's Real Estate Exposed. How many firms are zombie businesses inside of real estate? Zombie businesses being the Walking Dead, essentially.
Yeah.
And when you sort of pick apart the SME sector in Australia, there's a lot of zombie firms out there who are just hanging on by the skin of their teeth. They're probably trading insolvently, but somehow managing to keep ahead of their creditors with debt or otherwise. Are there a lot of zombie real estate firms, Tom?
Look,
I can see the headline now on Real Estate Business.
It's a good term. I'll tell you one thing for sure. There's a lot of real estate offices that resemble adult daycare centers, mate. I've got to tell you that. There's people just going in there, going through the motions, probably been a very long legacy business, hasn't adapted to change, might have had a very big rent roll at one stage. They've sold it off, and there's a bunch of people there that are just going through the motions. But having said that, there's a lot of real estate offices that have got young, energetic, hungry people that are seeing the ability that there's uncapped earnings, the sky's the limit, the opportunity to have total control of your destiny and not to be entering what is known in the corporate world as the pinstripe prison. And even though a lot of these people had the ability to, I'm seeing a heap of people, Phil, in real estate that have got university degrees. I've actually asked one the other day. I said, I'm curious, mate. University of Sydney, Bachelor of Economics, right? Real estate agent out in the Southwest, how did it work out? He said, oh, well, he goes, you're making about the same amount of money first year in real estate as you would as a graduate. Second year in real estate, I'm pretty certain I'm going to make 200 grand a year. Goes, I'm going to learn all about property. I love property. I'm going to invest in property. Yeah, there's plenty of those. But yeah, professionals. Padstow is a very good example. You got the kids there, highly educated, all the best universities, the best degrees, but in the end, they decided to take over the father's business, the professionals Padstow, and a very successful business that sells 30 properties a month. So you just got to do the numbers. 30 properties a month in their area is about $600,000-$800,000 in commissions.
Yeah. How many people grow up wanting to be a real estate agent in Australia, Tom, versus just falling into it because there wasn't many other choices?
Far more accidental agents than intentional agents. Far more accidental agents. I don't think it's the. I think if you did a survey in year 9 and said, "What do you want to be?" I don't think it's going to be up there, Phil, with the highest choices. I want to be a real estate agent, right? I don't think so. Traditionally, Phil, real estate was the job you did if you didn't get into university but didn't want to become a tradesperson, right? That was the sort of fit. I'll go into real estate, right? Then what happened is that it became more attractive to be a real estate agent. People started seeing, BMWs and Mercedes Benz driving through their local community. Oh, who's that? Oh, that's the real estate agent. Next thing you know is you're flipping on at 7:30 and you're watching $1 million listing, and you start thinking to yourself, oh, hang on a second here. Look, they have got a bit of a bad name, but it doesn't look too bad here. Nice car, they're always dressed well, looks like really flashy. So I think it's not what in the early stages, it's quite different. Now I think that it's definitely a viable option. I meet a lot of people in real estate that tell me that they were watching my videos on social media. They were working all sorts of jobs, and they got into real estate because they were attracted to the Gavin Rubensteins, the Josh Tesselans, the Alex Phillips. They started seeing, hey, look at what's possible without a university degree. Yet Lisa Novak says, I always wanted to be one.
And there is people like that who just love real estate. Any other comments, Tom, from our chat today? Maybe people are just going, can you guys talk about something a bit more sensible?
It's because they have, David Ellis, it's because they haven't kept their skills up when they feel they don't have to. Instead of following up the process, they follow the money. Good point. Phil, it's 6:10 p.m. One thing that's come out of it is this. It's a pretty good investment. Education, training, improving your skills. You're always going to be more valuable, whether it's into your own organization. Well, look at that. Liam Fenton, who works at one of the great real estate companies. I got into real estate from looking at you and Marty Fox. Do you know Marty Fox?
Don't know Marty. No.
Probably one of the most followed people on social media in real estate.
Is he Aussie guy? Aussie?
Yeah. White Fox in Melbourne. White Fox.
Mate, the only person I follow in real estate, two people. It's you, and I normally watch on a Saturday night your wrap up from your auctions, and that Vlad bloke.
My cousin Vlad. Yeah. A lot of people think he's just an actor. He's a real estate agent. Not so active these days. South of Sydney, that's all I'm going to say. Business has been going for a very long time, a family-run business. And may I say to you, because I know my cousin Vlad very well, he's coming to the same studio at least 10 times. Very quiet, very conservative, and a total different character to that you see on stage.
I think he
married to a doctor as well.
Yeah, he does it well. Always quite smirk when he should post a few more videos. He doesn't do it enough, but But no doubt he invests in his education as well, crafting his talents. Maybe we can get him on to Real Estate Exposed sometimes.
Yeah, look, I'll definitely bring him on. I'm going to leave on one final point, Phil, and we can talk about it at a later time. I've underestimated TikTok. I've underestimated TikTok. It's becoming very clear to me there is a bit of migration happening. And
Yep.
I can see what's happening. Instagram and Facebook have gone back to defend their position by changing their product offering and doing Reels. YouTube, which is owned by Google, is doing Shorts, and they've got some of the most intelligent algorithm engineers in the world, that TikTok. So look out for it. I'm seeing more and more real estate in it. Anyway, Phil.
Hey, wait, Tom, before you sign off, mate, just on TikTok, I want to just read this out for you very, very quickly, and something to be considered about. Hang on, can I find it very, very quickly? It's not going to come up. Hang on. So, how many followers have you got on TikTok at the moment, Tom?
Very little, 2,000.
Okay. So, news story on Cybersecurity Connect this week. Aussie TikTok users' private data accessible to China-based staff.
Yeah, I know that.
In a letter to Liberal Senator James Patterson, TikTok has admitted staff in China can access millions of Australian users' private data, despite the viral videos app's previous assurances that the information is gathered and stored in the US and Singapore. Just remember.
Phil, I'm aware of it. I was told many, many, many months ago about it. And I know it is an
Which is
issue.
okay, by the way, but you know, you just anything you put up on the internet, remember, is there forever, including
Phil
this
Tarrant,
podcast, this live stream.
Exactly right. All righty, Phil. To all our viewers, have a good evening.